The most successful people are not the best educated, experienced, or well-connected. They are just the people who keep going and don't give up. Your vision needs to be bigger than what it is you're selling. Write a vision statement for yourself that has nothing to do with your product or service, but the feeling that you want someone to have once they've experienced it. Oh. You're always chasing the vision. And then your mission is, how am I trying to accomplish that?
I'm listening so intently. I literally am taking notes for my company right now. I'm like, that's right. We're going to go back and listen.
Welcome to the Jasmine Star Show. Y'all, the moment this woman had walked into my home, along with our guest, co-host, podcast amazingness, that is Lori Harder. Just as a reminder, Lori has invited, handpicked, and curated amazing guests to come along on this journey with us on the podcast. Now, I'm so excited to introduce you to Brittany, but before I do, I actually want to read her bio because I told her before we started recording, I was like, this is really so beautiful that I want to make sure that people are fully dialed in. Brittany is co-founder and CEO of Squeeze, which is a franchise that prioritizes guest experience. But before Squeeze, she ran marketing for the Drybar, helping to grow the brand from 30 million to over 100 million. Should we drop the mic then? No, not yet. She's legit. She's also opened more than 50 new shops and launched a Drybar product line internationally. I'm sure many of you listening will find it. Sephora, Ulta, Nordstrom, all the best, bombest places for your hair goods. She was a part of that. I want to especially say thank you, Lori, for making this introduction. Brittany, thank you for being here on the Jasmine Star Show. We are going to get into your entrepreneurial journey. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here with both of you.
Okay, so I want to start a little bit with how you and Lori met. How did that start?
That's a great question, Britt. I was thinking of that. How did our paths cross? Do you remember?
Well, wait a minute. I am introducing you as Brittany, and you called her Brit.
Everyone calls her Brittany. I don't know why I started with Brit. It was your Instagram handle. That's why.
I go by both. So whichever.
I was like,
but
because
you
if you guys
Brit.
are friends, like I'm just jumping in and calling you Brit because I'm not going to be an outsider. I'm like,
done.
Okay,
yes.
What do you prefer?
I like Brit, but I still sign my emails Brittany. Like it's just a
very professional.
Right.
When
exactly.
we're mad at her, we'll call her Brittany.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
My mom, Brittany Ann. No, the first time we actually met in person was when you guys were doing your RV trip and we did the podcast in Nashville.
Story's so good.
Yes.
Okay. So I had known of you and I was like, I want to do a podcast with her because she's freaking amazing. And we were RVing during the pandemic and we were going through Nashville and I knew she was there. And I also immediately connected with her energy. So I knew that she'd be a good one to maybe have out for cocktails and a bonfire at our campsite.
Exactly. See, there's so many layers to Lori, right? You look at her and you think, she's going to be popping off a private jet with her big, beautiful dog. She's like, we were in the RV.
Yeah,
we want a bonfire.
We were eating off of paper plates, drinking out of plastic cups.
Yes,
it was amazing.
We're done doing a hanger, an iron hanger. We're going to roast our hot dogs right around. Okay.
What better way? And I think we were both in the coziest jammy clothes.
Yes.
I looked at that picture. Here's the top knot. I don't think I have makeup on. And I'm like, hey, partner.
We're doing a professional podcast. Here we go.
So we podcast in the RV. I think we had to turn the air conditioning off and we were sweating our off. And literally, that's just how we connected. Yeah. I feel like we connected with your husband too so well. And it was just immediate. She was just that down home girlfriend energy that I'm like, this feels so good. And for me, those life connections where I'm thinking of a lifelong friend, I want to feel comfortable. I want to feel like I can fully be myself because sooner or later you were going to catch me being myself anyway. So why not get it all out there?
Yeah, I feel like when you start to go down the entrepreneurial journey, it's the more people you meet who you can immediately drop in with and have the real conversations and talk about what's challenging and celebrate the wins. It's just you latch onto those people. And that was Lori for me. So
okay, so down home friend, celebrating the wins, dropping down into, can we tap there for a second? Because that's the reason I wanted to have the podcast. It's yes, you have this very an elusive, amazing, illuminative. I'm just going to make that word up.
That one.
Career. It's really you look at it on paper and I'm like, this woman is a powerhouse. But I'm like, why don't we have the conversations that maybe don't grace the pages of Forbes and Inc., right? Yep. Let's have the conversations about what it means to be an entrepreneur. Where did you start your journey? At what point did you say, this is the first time my teeth got knocked out? Where are we at there?
Truly, every day. Gosh, okay, so I started my career in marketing and advertising. So I worked with Fortune 500 brands to begin with. So I feel like I have a little bit of a unique entrepreneurial journey in that I really was in corporate America for the first decade. I got a chance to work with Barbie and Hot Wheels and Disney and Coca-Cola. I've always been a big experiential person. So that's where I started, was just creating really cool big events and experiences that connected brands with people. And then I always joke I went from Hot Wheels to Hot Air. I was like loving Mattel, but Drybar had come onto the scene and I was a huge fan.
Cute. Brit, that's cute. Yes. Hot Wheels to Hot Air at Drybar. Yes. Okay.
And they were looking for a head of marketing, and I thought, gosh, this would be so fun to take all my experience in working with these big brands and help to build something that I felt personally passionate about. And at Drybar, we always used to say that we weren't selling blowouts. We were selling the happiness and confidence that came with a blowout, because when you look good, you feel good. And when you feel good, you can take on the world. And I just loved the idea of being part of women's lives in really powerful, meaningful ways. We had women coming in for their first dates, their first board meetings. Women would come in right before they delivered their babies. No joke. It was like first stop and then the hospital.
We need to meet these women.
Yes, really. So it was such an amazing experience. But so I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. I really liked kind of, the chaos of the unknown, building, figuring it out. Even when I was working with the big brands early on in my career, I was kind of always on like the special projects team. I wasn't doing kind of the normal mundane stuff. I was figuring out how to disrupt and how to really, take things to the next level, getting a chance to work with a lot of really, influential and high-powered people in those companies and whatnot. And so after 4 years at Drybar, loved every moment of that experience, as you could imagine. I mean, got a chance to put the processes and protocols in place, built out the whole team. We, started, there was 25 locations. When I left, there was close to 100, and, just kind of figuring it all out. It was so much fun. But I really like the building mode and the creating. And so Michael and Allie, who are the founders of Drybar, always had this other idea for a better massage experience, but of course didn't have the bandwidth to get it off the ground. And I'm an avid massage goer. And so I kind of went to them and I said, I'm ready for my next thing. I don't really know what it's going to be, but I just know that I'm ready to move on, which I feel like is so important for women, particularly in, corporate spaces where they may feel really responsible and attached to the company or the teams that they build. You feel guilty for leaving. It's like when you want to move on, it's the right thing for the company and the people. You're not serving them anymore if you're kind of looking on to the next thing. So
that
in any
is
case,
huge.
Yeah, and so I went to them and I just said, I'm ready for the next thing. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to help you transition and figure out how to find the next leader for Drybar. And that's when they were like, remember that massage idea that we've had? Because literally, they talked about it the whole time that I was at Drybar. And so I actually...
So let's go back there.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of like it's an easy lily pad to skip over.
Yeah.
But those early, I love talking about the early ideas, because now we look at something like Squeeze and we're like, of course that makes sense. Right. But like it's always sloppy and messy. So when they're like, hey, we have this idea for a better massage experience, like explain that.
Well, I always think that the best business ideas come out of personal frustration. And that's really, that was the Drybar story. That's the Squeeze story. The pain points and the frustration was the massage itself was great at all of our, we won't name the competitors, but everyone can think of the big guys that exist in the space, and it was like the massage was great, but the experience to get into this relaxing state of mind was so frustrating. You had to call individual locations. You had to remember your preferences, repeat them every single time. You had to remember what therapists you liked and which ones you didn't. And, when the massage was done, you had to stand in a clunky checkout line and someone's asking you about tipping. And then all of a sudden you're there for a relaxing experience and it's just on. And so it was like, how could we solve for all of those things and really make the massage experience what it should be, which is seamless and relaxing? And so that's what Squeeze solves for. We've really, truly, we built out a seamless and platform, an app that our guests can book. You set all your personalized preferences. You can book by therapist, so you remember which one you love. And then it's like Uber and Postmates. You rate, tip, and review all at your leisure. So you're not standing in a clunky checkout line. You're not having, someone ask you about tipping. And we like to say guests walk in and float out. So
I love it. I've done it multiple times. And you want to know just that little being able to mark who I loved, like afterward, I'm like, that is actually a huge pain point for me because I don't go all the time.
Right.
I'm like, who was that? And because I don't go, I want it to be amazing. And I'm holding it to this expectation. So I love the process. I'm also, and this is going to come as a surprise, rather introverted sometimes. And during massages, like it's nice to be able to mark all of your preferences right down to like, do you want to talk during it? Do
Please
you
don't
not?
Talk to me. Yes.
Like how many massages have you had where they have talked to you the whole way
time.
through? And I'm like, that was a coaching session and I need to charge you.
Yes.
Truly.
100%.
Yeah. And there's so many other personalized aspects of our experience as well. We have an aromatherapy bar where you can smell different scents, let your therapist know what you want. When you get into the room, you can choose 6 different playlists, everything from like the traditional Zen to piano to we have like a holiday playlist during the holiday season. And then we even have, we also have a phone charger, mints, hair ties, but we even have a ready button. So you as the guest, once you get on the table, you can let the therapist know when you're ready for them.
You guys have thought thought
to re-enter.
about it all. Okay, so I've never admitted on the podcast. I always get a little embarrassed. I don't know why I get embarrassed about it, but I get a weekly massage.
Amazing.
Well,
I know.
amazing.
I know. I feel so like,
no,
oh my God,
you're my massage
girl is turning pink.
As you should. You should.
I really do. Like my
you
body.
need it.
I do.
You do. It's working for you.
Can we go back though to? I think I'm going to regret saying that because people are like, "A week, girl, what do you do?" I'm like, I do a lot. I carry the weight of a business, my daughter, my family.
Yes.
You better not edit that out because that's permission for someone who's like, oh, this is a really important part of self-care in order to operate at your level. Because people want to know how.
Exactly.
That is how.
You know what?
That's right.
Yeah.
And massage, I always say, is like mind, body, soul therapy. It's not just physical. It's one of the few things that I do to this day that I'm not bringing my phone in with me. Like when I'm sitting in a sauna or some other, it's easy to bring your phone in, but massage is actually like the one of few things that you can have where you're truly unplugging. And so I actually think that is really important. And I'm so proud of you and happy that you do that.
Well, thank you, Brit.
And you're the perfect ideal client. Would you like to do that?
Yeah, exactly.
I was just like,
we'll be opening in Orange County in just a couple of months.
Oh my God, please let me go in. Let me just, okay. So can we go back to the conversation though? When you're talking about Squeeze and you are a current team member and you've built such a relationship and you do feel those ties, but you also know something else is being called to you. When they're coming to you, what is the structure of that relationship? Are they coming to you as a partner? Or are they coming to you as we want to do something, but we want you to lead it? Or do you talk about that structure?
Oh, absolutely. So it was one of those, just again, as entrepreneurs do, like, hey, just throw out an idea and kind of see where it takes us. And so what I actually did was basically what Michael and Ali said was, we love this idea. We really believe that it has, teeth, that we can figure out how to really make it successful, but we can't run the day-to-day. So if you wanted to do it, ultimately, we would support you in getting it off the ground, but you would need to be the one really running it. And so what I did, and I also feel like this is really important for women, again, who are thinking about transitioning from corporate to entrepreneurship or even any type of transition, is really being mindful and thoughtful about how you go about it. And so I actually took 3 months and I explored both additional options and avenues for myself, because the last thing I wanted to do, relationships are so important to me. And the last thing I wanted to do was say, thanks for this, great opportunity. I'm just going to jump into it. And then 3 months in be like, never mind, this is way too hard. I want to take the bigger paycheck down the road. And so I took 3 months. I explored those bigger opportunities. And I also started to research the space. And I really realized, wow, we have such an opportunity here, not only for the guest experience, which we just talked about, but so much of my heart in life is about people and connection. And I really realized that the industry had a major opportunity to create a better experience for the employees, for the massage therapists in particular. And I got so excited about this opportunity just to create a better working environment and place for people to come in every day and pursue their passion. I mean, massage therapists go to school to help and heal people, and they dedicate their lives to that. And they deserve to be celebrated and kind of walked alongside as human beings, and not just, what they're contributing to the company. So I got so excited about it all. I did all the research, and our agreement.
Can I pause, Brit? I'm so sorry. Was there any point during this time where you are asking yourself, but is this the organization I want to do it with? Are these the partners I want to do it with? Should I go out and do something autonomously, or should I go back and maybe find a different partner? Is that on the table, or is it more of like, I want to do some deep dive research before I dive in again with partners that I'm pretty dang sure I'm going to be working with?
That's a great question. I mean, going into business with people is like a marriage, so you definitely need to understand who you're getting in bed with. Ultimately, I mean, the good news for me was I had worked with Michael and Ali for 4 years. They were family. They are family, to me today. They were family to me then. We both were like known commodities to each other. We kind of understood our pain points and our challenges and what worked well. So I felt very confident that they were going to help guide and support me. I definitely knew that, they were going to add more value than going out and doing it on my own. But it's a really good point, actually, to be very mindful about that, because we are now 6 years into this journey. And thankfully, there's been a lot of ups and downs, but I'm so happy that they are my partners. I mean, they've really helped to give me a lot of leeway in leadership, but they're also there when I really need them. I think also there was so much that we knew we did well at Drybar in terms of creating a great brand. I call Drybar a love brand. I'm hoping Squeeze will become one too, which is just, the first thing out of most people's mouths when they hear the name is, oh my gosh, I love Drybar or I love Squeeze. And so we knew kind of the secret sauce or the ingredients to creating that. And that's a really special thing, and it doesn't happen all the time. And so I knew we could create that together. But there certainly were some hard, I shouldn't say hard conversations, but real defining conversations about how we would work. I obviously worked for them when I was at Drybar, and we were transitioning from that relationship to being business partners, yes. And also me really leading the day-to-day. So there was a few conversations that were like, okay, hold up, we got to change a little bit of how we're working together here. It's not like the old days, if you will. So
were you the person to drive those conversations?
Yes, okay. I was.
So maybe if you, I hate asking for like frameworks on the spot, but like there are other people in different situations, perhaps not transitioning from builder to partner, but there are people who are navigating conversations, and I don't believe in hard conversations. I believe that there's just conversations and we get to apply an emotion to it. But for somebody who's listening and they know that they need to lead the conversation, what advice would you have before we get into the other business stuff? This transition to having conversations, what type of things are you preparing for? How are you navigating it? Tips for that?
I think the way that I thought about it was, what do I want my life? I'm going to be pouring my blood, sweat, and tears and my heart and soul into this business. What do I want my day-to-day to look like 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 2 years from now? It can't actually be the same as how we were working together at Drybar, because Michael and Allie weren't in the day-to-day with Squeeze like they were with Drybar. And so to, come in with really strong opinions when you're not in the day-to-day really ruffles the team who's doing the work, if you will. So for me, it was thinking through, like, what do I want for myself and for my team? How is this going to look? And then I process by writing. And so I actually wrote a letter. I literally outlined my thoughts on, here's what I'm finding challenging, and here's, what I think success could look like for both of us. And do you agree, essentially? And can we talk about, if you don't, what, where we find a middle ground? But ultimately, things need to change, and they need to look a little different. So I outlined my thoughts, and then I just had a conversation, and we went back and forth a little bit, and then got to a really great place. And it was also so great to have that defining conversation, because 3 months down the road, 6 months down the road, I could circle back to it and say, hey, remember we talked about, just this key difference in how we're working together. If we could both, kind of honor what we agreed to, I would appreciate it. And it's been really, really beautiful. Really beautiful, honestly. I'm so grateful. But I think it was because
so I'm going to repeat back the three things that I heard, just for like we're drilling down, and you can correct me. It was to understand the way that you process and communicate. And in your case, it's writing. And so once you've understood the way that you do it, then it's to leverage the mode of communication. If it is to send a recording, a video, write a letter. And then once you do that, you're outlining the current state of things, the pressure point, but offering a solution, and then getting a buy-in.
Correct.
And then obviously most times there's going to be back and forth. And then that then serves as a distillation that you guys go back to again and again. But we had this, and so this is what we agreed to.
That's right.
Okay, cool.
That's exactly it.
Okay.
And I think, though, the great thing about that conversation was we did have such a solid foundation, multiple years of working together before that. And so it's like, if you're going into something brand new with someone, I feel like that type of conversation has to almost happen immediately, or you need to do team building things where you understand how you're working together, whether it's, I don't know, rope courses or something like there actually needs to be really intentional time where you're being pressure cooked together, because we had been pressure cooked, for years. And I feel like that's really important to kind of set the foundation for then, having those types of conversations.
So good.
That's so good. Pressure cooker, that is where you learn everything about everyone.
That is right. That is right.
So I can't get over what you said about creating a love brand, because we all have brands here.
Yes.
And you had mentioned that there are certain ingredients that go into it.
That's right.
Can you tell me what those are?
Ooh, I feel like that's like secret sauce a little bit. Well, I think...
Well, that's what we do here. We spill the tea. Brit, no.
You can't say it and not tell me.
I think I think there's a lot of things. I think the first is, when I was running marketing for Drybar, I used to joke that I wanted to work myself out of a job, not because I didn't love what I was doing and not because I didn't love the brand and the team and all of it, but I really believe that the best marketing is the experience that you're creating that then dovetails into what people are saying about your brand. The power of a great brand is what other people say about it, not what the brand says about itself.
Amen.
And so that, for me, is like the number one secret sauce to a love brand is the experience, the foundation. You know, when we had struggling locations at Drybar, they were getting off the ground slower. You know, they needed additional love, if you will. The first thing that we would do is not pour more marketing dollars. We would actually look internally. What's the management? What's the retention of the staff? What's the cleanliness of the shop? Let's look at the reviews. It was more about the inside than the outside. So I think that the importance, first and foremost, is the experience. And little things are big things is one of our values at Squeeze. And I always like to think about that concept and that idea as a little thing in an experience is something that if it didn't exist, no one would know otherwise. You know, it's not like you're walking into a location and there's no bathroom. That's not a little thing. There has to be a bathroom in a location. But if you walk into the bathroom like you do at Squeeze and the door closes and you look in the mirror and there's a cute little saying that you can read only when you're looking in the mirror, you know, that's a little thing that like brightens someone's day and makes you think, oh, someone thought of me. Someone thought of me right now in this experience. And those are the little things I think that like make people feel emotionally connected to a brand. So it's like, how are you creating that emotional connection? It's probably the first thing. The second thing I would say is innovation. I think that today it's so important that you are just best in class in your industry. You're thinking ahead in terms of how delivery of your product or your service is meeting the consumer where they are today. And you're, you know, ahead of your competition from that standpoint. And then lastly is probably just the connection that you actually have with your consumer. You know, how are you talking to them? How are they talking back to you? How is that resonating? And they're actually recognizing that you are listening to them. Like for us, you know, Yelp and Google reviews. This was the same at Drybar as it is at Squeeze. Thankfully, we've got really positive ones for the most part. But when there are moments of pain points and opportunities where we can be better, it's like so important to remember to be human. I am so sorry. I can imagine how this made you feel. I don't want that. And let us make it right. Like acknowledge where you're wrong because again, people want to be heard. They want to feel valued. They want to understand that you recognize them. And so for us, you know, it's really, again, kind of bringing that human level into everything that we're doing.
I love that. And I can tell you that if anyone out there is listening and they're building a brand or, you know, building a product or whatever that looks like, I went into Squeeze and now you like go into Drybar and go in as the consumer. Like, I look at the experience and you're so right. Like I went to the bathroom in Squeeze and it was like the best bathroom experience I think I've ever had. There was dry shampoo in there for me. Like there was all of these things. I think mouthwash.
Yeah, that's right.
The little sayings are so cute. Like I just sat and I was like, I could stay in here and read. The temperature was nice. Like every single thing that I could think of was in there. And it really made me think from my standpoint of creating something. I'm like, how can I make someone feel exactly like they're making me feel right now?
Yeah.
So go and experience that.
Can we tap there? So I wonder if it's not if it's not in alignment, just let me know.
Sure.
But what we're talking is very high level. And so there's somebody who's listening right now and they say, like I followed the EIC formula, right? It was the experience, it was innovation, and it was connection. And so there's somebody who's listening right now who's not having a bathroom or a music list. So let's go back to the person. Let's think about the person who's making less than $500,000 a year.
Sure.
Maybe has a small team. Most likely they're virtual. And they're maybe in a digital service-based business. How then do we go out and create that EIC for somebody like that? Maybe like one or two tips.
Yeah. Actually, that reminds me of one other thing that I do actually feel like is an important ingredient to a love brand. And I think that it applies very much to that entrepreneur, which is I think that your vision needs to be bigger than what it is you're selling. And so...
Oh, wait. Your pause. It's like I'm just going to, like, so to save somebody from pausing and replaying that, can you say that one more time?
Yes. Your vision needs to be bigger than what it is you're selling. Oof. And I think that if you can outline that on paper, and I guess what I mean by that is like write a vision statement for yourself that has nothing to do with your product or service, but the feeling that you want someone to have once they've experienced it.
Oh, so good.
And then your mission statement, which is essentially like your vision statement should be a pie in the sky, blue sky thing that you never quite attain. Like you're always chasing the vision. There's nothing that you could ever do to get there because that's how like big and grand it is. And then your mission is, how am I trying to accomplish that every single day? Like, what does that look like? That's where you write in what you're delivering to meet the vision. And then you need to have company values. I believe so much that the values of a company, which are really just like personality traits, that's all values are. If you were to personify your business and your brand, what are the words or the sayings that define what that is? And if you have those, first of all, that's what helps translate how you hire, how you fire, how you promote, how you evaluate whatever it is that you're selling, whether it's the packaging, your messaging, etc. If you can outline those vision, mission, values, I really think that what you end up creating becomes very clear. And also it helps keep you going. I mean, if all you're doing is earning a paycheck, entrepreneurship is not for you. I mean, you will quit before you start or before you get anywhere. It's hard.
Before you get your first paycheck.
Exactly.
For a paycheck, I was like, honey, there's a lot of us who do it very long without a paycheck.
That's right.
So there's got to be something bigger.
That's right. And so I think that's really, really important. The other thing for me at Squeeze, just to kind of like finish out that one-sheeter, if you will, as we were thinking about the impact that we wanted to make, we have a philanthropic component to our business. For every membership that we sell, we're helping to provide a day of canine support to a person with a disability. And there's a lot of ways that we work with Canine Companions, which is the organization we've partnered with. But beyond that, what's really cool about it is when employees come to work every day, they know that the work they're doing is not only servicing the guest in that moment, but we are also making a positive impact in the community. And same for the member. They're choosing to spend their dollar at a company where they feel really good and there's also work that's doing good. And so I just think that is the way to build a great love brand, and that is the way to build a brand that is sustainable and will connect with people no matter if it's your employee or your consumer.
So good.
Texting team to redo vision statement.
And I was like, what's your action item takeaway? Okay, so I want Lori, please like jump in 1,000 times, because sometimes I just like steamroll with questions. And
I'm good.
Okay, okay.
I'm also like, okay, remember to ask a question because I'm listening so intently.
We're in masterclass.
I literally am taking notes for my company right now. I'm like, that's right. We're going to go back and listen to this.
Talk to me. Oftentimes when we have these conversations, the one cheater. Now I want to know the first draft that doesn't get to be seen.
Yeah.
When you are doing this and you have partners, when's the first time that something happens in building with Squeeze that just shakes you? That kind of is just like the thing that you didn't think or see happen, and it really kind of like shakes the foundation. What is that?
I feel like maybe we met during that time.
Oh my gosh. No. Well, we met during the pandemic. So I feel like, I am convinced that the most successful people are not the best educated, experienced, or well-connected. They are just the people who keep going and don't give up. And for me, that is the Squeeze story. We launched our business in March of 2019. We opened our first location in Los Angeles. It was a banger. I mean, it surpassed all of our expectations. We were so excited. We had 5 potential franchisees around the table who were about to sign on the dotted line for multiple territories in their community. We were about to get it all going. That was literally March 12th or something of 2020. And then March 16th rolled around. We closed our doors. We were closed for a year and a half before we were even able to like start rebuilding, which then took another year and a half to get back to any semblance of what 2019 looked like. And what
does this look like though? Like when you say you close your doors, and we're talking about in Los Angeles, and for people who are not from Los Angeles, it was really stringent. Like when people say you close doors, you legitimately close your doors.
We closed our doors.
And so a year of building and success, and then you close your doors. What does that do to the team size? What is it what is happening?
We actually kept, so again, like values, right? I actually kept my team on full payroll for about a month or month and a half, because I was like, we got to do right by our people. Like this is scary for everybody. We don't know what's happening, but I want to keep my people intact so that when we open our doors again, everyone will be there, and we'll have felt really good about how we treated our people during that time. But then, of course, it was like 2 more weeks forever. And so then, eventually we had to furlough everybody. And that was heartbreaking because this team had believed in this business before it was even like four walls existed. I felt so personally connected to every single person. But I would say that what we did during that time was we just kept connected with people. Again, going back to like the human piece of it. Like it doesn't have to be big or scary at that time was big and overwhelming and scary, but like your connection with your team and or your consumer doesn't have to feel overly whatever, curated. I just checked in with people all the time. Hey, how are you doing? What can we do? Is there anything that we can do to support you? And that's what we did for a year and a half. And like 85% of our team came back when we opened. We maintained 70% of our membership during that time. I mean, it was hard and overwhelming and really scary, but it was also one of those things that tested, like, do we really believe in that big vision that we're never actually going to chase, but we're going to keep going after it every single day? Like, do we believe why it is that we're here? Which for us, our vision is to transform communities for good. And so that means we get to make people feel good through massage, but we also get to change people in terms of how we interact with them on a daily basis. And this was our like moment. Okay, how are we interacting with people? How are we still showing up?
How did you, as the founder, keep your spirits up through that? Because I remember at that time we had started a podcast together.
Yep. And our pandemic project podcast. Our
pandemic project, which might come back. We'll see.
Yes.
We were chatting and it was like every single week. It wasn't good news for either of us. So I think that's when we had really connected. Yeah. But for you, how did you go back into being a leader during those super challenging times when I actually know how you were feeling? Yeah. What were the things that you did to get back into that place of power?
I think it actually goes back to the idea of weekly massages. I spent a lot, I wasn't getting massages, unfortunately, but I did a lot of self-care. I did a lot of like walks every single day, getting out into sunshine, talks with my girlfriends. I mean, I talked to girlfriends probably multiple times a day for that truncated period of time because you needed a lifeline, and I feel like it's so important as an entrepreneur to be real, to be honest, to be vulnerable about what you're struggling with, because you hear someone else say, yeah, me too. And you're like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, totally.
Thank God I'm not alone. So that was one piece. I write in a gratitude journal. I started to do it when I started Squeeze. I still do it to this day. I find it to be really, really, really powerful in shifting my mindset. I write down 3 to 5 things that I'm grateful for from the past 24 hours. I feel like the 2 things that are really important in that is that you're physically writing something down. Your brain actually processes information differently when you're doing that versus like typing or thinking or talking out loud. And then the past 24 hours for like recency and specificity. And all of a sudden it's like your brain starts to look for the good. So, those types of habits that I've just learned require discipline, not motivation, because I didn't want to be doing those things then. Yeah. But I just forced myself to, and I still do. That, and I love a good morning dance party. So I put on some, Whitney or Tina or whatever, and I would just dance around. And I would be like, I got to reach this like euphoric state that I was used to existing in all day long when you're like being challenged and when you're, pursuing something and when you're reaching, a goal and then you're focusing on the next. So I don't know. I just found like all those little things.
Did you ever feel crazy during it though, where you're like, wow, nothing is looking good. I don't know if this is ever going to go okay. Like, tell me about how we can stay in that almost like that place.
Yeah. I actually had several people who were close to the business tell me that like this is the end, that we weren't going to make it, that, that was like,
did you guys take investors?
We did.
Okay.
We did.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was actually one of the conversations is like pretty much every investor has written off any 4-wall brick and mortar business that they invested in pre-pandemic. Like it's over. And for some reason, that motivated me more than anything. I was like, I don't know if we cuss on this show. I was like, that. Like, I am going to prove everyone wrong because that's not true. Like, because I knew that we had, again, such a bigger vision, such a bigger purpose that we were existing for, not just massage. And I knew the people that worked in the space every single day. I mean, Squeeze is such a magical feeling when you walk in. And so yes, I had really, really deep, dark moments of just defeat and feeling unsure and definitely feeling crazy. Like, should I be even focusing on this anymore? But again, I'm just going to go back to like the vision that we had set for this company and the why that we had. I just believed in so wholeheartedly that we have 82 locations in development today. We will probably have much more than that in development by the end of this year. And that's a testament to like fortitude and grit and resilience. And I do think that you need that as an entrepreneur. I mean, if you're in a corporate career right now, or if you're in some type of transition and you're wanting to go into entrepreneurship, don't do it if you think your life's going to be any easier.
Oh, God,
I mean,
no.
You may have like different states of euphoria throughout it, but for the most part, the valleys are so low and so real.
But it's euphoria in the midst of crap.
Yes.
Like, I just want can we all just like say that? Like,
truly,
you do not get a better or easier life when you start a business.
No.
You get much higher highs, but you're getting a high during a really hard time. It's perpetually hard.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're getting punched over and over no matter what.
Were you losing money at that time? Like when they said it was the end, why were they saying it was the end? And what did you do to not make it the end?
We were losing money. Our landlord,
we just giggled.
We got no rent abatement. I mean, we paid rent the entire time during the pandemic. It was crazy.
Now, when you say we paid rent, are you paying rent for the physical location number one in Los Angeles that's not open?
Doors literally like chained locked.
Okay, and then of the 5 franchises, I don't want to miss this question, but I think this question would add light into the decisions that you're making.
Yeah.
You had 5 potential franchisees to go into regions during this time. Where are they at? Are you cultivating those relationships? Did you take money, signing on the dotted line? Where are we at?
So they actually went away. We had one who had signed with us, and she was like on the brink of signing her first lease. And, none of those people are in existence within our system today. I mean, that was literally like chapter closed. So yes, we were losing money. We were trying to be very mindful, though, of how we were using our time. So I still kept my team, my corporate team, the few people that we had on board engaged to a small degree. I mean, everyone took significant pay cuts, but we used the time to like cross our T's and dot our I's because we knew that we wanted to scale. And in order to scale a franchise, it really requires documentation, good training systems, protocols in place. So we were like, okay,
how big
we're
is the
just
team?
Going to hunker down. At that time, it was like 3 of us, 4 of us.
Okay.
And we were just like, okay, we're just going to hunker down and we're going to use this time to lay the foundation so that by the time we are on the other side of this, which we believed there was another side to it, which I think I just can't emphasize enough. I feel like that is the difference, is like what you believe. If you believe that it's over, then it is over.
Then it is.
And so we were just like, all right, we're going to set ourselves up so that by the time we're on the other side, we can just like, wow. And we did.
Wow.
I mean, it's been really hard. Don't get me wrong. It's like there are still the deep, dark days for sure. But I feel so proud of what we have been able to accomplish given the circumstances and where we started.
Who are you on the other side of this?
Oh, I'm a different person. That's for sure. That's such a good question. I think it's funny. I'm different and I'm the same. I have the same. My dad always used to say when I was a kid, he's like, there's some movie, which I tried to quote the movie the other day to you, and you were like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't know the movie. I need to learn the movie reference. But it's like this boxer movie that's like, I could have been a contender. And my dad would always say that to me as a kid, like you have that mentality, like I could have been a contender. And so I do feel like I have maintained that mindset of like, I can do this. I believe I can do this. I can figure it out. I think that I have a much softer, more vulnerable state of mind though now because of what we experienced. Like I love, to your point, you were like, let's just talk about the real stuff. I love talking about the real stuff now. Before I had this like bravado. I would put on a little bit of like, I got it all covered face. And now I'm like, no, I don't have all the answers. I don't know everything. I just know that I can figure it out. And I know that I'm unafraid to ask the hard questions or reach out for help when I need it. And I think that more and more women need to hear that because we don't have the answers. You don't have the answer, neither do we. And so it's like, just keep going after what it is that sets your soul on fire and what you believe you're here for, because if you don't do it, no one's doing it for you.
So both of those things, like it's crazy. Lori and I had a conversation and we were talking about like the low points, and they were kind of happening at the same time after the pandemic. And one of the things that Lori had cited as well was saying that up until that point, she had known success and it was her greatest asset, and perhaps going into a really difficult time, her greatest liability. And so there's somebody who's listening right now, and this person, like many of us at this table, we push and we continue to push. what on the other side of this is telling you, like, how do you now know this is when I should push and this is maybe when I should take a step back?
I actually think I'm still learning that, to be honest. And I think that that's a really good point of delineation that's important to understand for yourself because, one, I think it's actually just about permission, right? Because to your point, I had so much success prior to the pandemic. It defined a lot of who I was. I was what I did, not who I am. And honestly, I'm still figuring out who I am. But the what I did piece, I think, is so important to give yourself permission to adjust and adapt so that you're not stuck, right? You're not defined as this one thing or, this one way of being. So I don't know. Honestly, if I have the perfect answer to that because I think I am still trying to figure it out a little bit myself.
Oh, see, going back to what Lori had said, she said, I had freedom phrases that if I didn't know the answer to the question, the best thing that she could say is, that's a great question. I actually don't know the answer. I'm going to figure it out. And when I do, I'll come back to you. So this is an open invitation. When you figure that out, you're coming back on the show. Let's go back.
I love it.
Okay, so when we talk about these things, I want to be a little bit selfish if it's cool. But this question is for both of you. You both took on investors. I've only ever known bootstrapped. And so you took on investors, people who obviously believed in you. There was a crazy time in human history that had occurred. And then you had said investors had written off, not just Squeeze, but like any investment that had four walls, buy. And then Lori was dealing with the pandemic. And so what investors showed up for you, if any? And then what are those relationships now? I mean, I firmly believe like Glossy at the time of this recording is just getting its start. But I just think that so few people think that she's not destined for massive success with it. And now we look at Squeeze and incredible growth. So now what are investors saying? And what do you feel towards that? And what are you guys learning as you guys are investors?
Yeah. There are a few investors that I have that I know I can go to at any given time and they will be there for me one way or the other, whether it's like an introduction, just like an emotional check-in. And then there's some that aren't that, but that's okay too, right? I think one of the most important things if you're going to take investors is to understand why you are taking investment and who you're taking it from. If you're taking money just to get money, that's one thing and that's totally fine. But again, going back to just like understanding what the agreement is, if you need someone who you want strategic guidance from and who is going to really be there for you throughout the whole time, that also needs to be something that's very clear. And so for me, it was, I kind of knew different people kind of existed in different camps, and that's totally fine. And the people that exist more in the strategic guidance camp, they have stayed consistent, which I'm really grateful for. And they've also opened additional doors for me for other investors or different partnerships. And that's okay. I think there was a moment in time where I was a little bit like, I have to prove all these people wrong. And I do still feel that way. But I also mainly just want to do right by them. I mean, they believed in me from the beginning. They did believe in what we were doing, regardless of the circumstances. So, and I'm really grateful for that. So it's like, how can I just want to make sure that we give it back in as much, tenfold as we can.
Awesome.
I just want to copy paste everything she said because that is a million % applies to my journey. So you have to know why you're doing it and you have to remind yourself of why you're doing it too. Because I do think there's a lot of things that you can bootstrap. I think in yours that has like such a large startup cost. You have to really think about that. But I could have bootstrapped and gone slower and gone alone. But one of the reasons I wanted to do it was to bring women with me. And I wanted to bring women who had never invested either with me. So I think that when you take that on and you're also both educating each other together and you're learning, and it was my first time on the journey, I had to constantly remember that sometimes the journey with investors is going to be challenging, especially if they don't fully understand what's happening within a pivot. And to remember that it's my job to constantly go back and get them re-excited and reignited and also teach them that this is a normal thing. So I think during it, I think that when you take on investors, I think there's two frames of mind. It can either be like people can look at them as like their biggest challenge because you take an entrepreneur and all of a sudden for these people, you have to check in. You have to have these quarterly newsletters. You have to tell them what's going on. And I will tell you that the hardest thing to write when you're not doing well is your quarterly newsletter. Like, the 4th newsletter about nothing good, but I'm going to do it with a lot of exciting undertones to it.
A lot of memes.
Emojis.
Yeah, right.
And so
the future is looking bright. We promise.
Like way down the road. You're going to love that car ride. Get a long book. Okay. So I think that it was the constant resetting of remembering how fortunate you are to have these people on board with you. And even if they're not understanding like what a soul journey that is for you to learn that communication and learn that you get to be this new person and step into that like, you know, pep rally, hype girl, and really like it helps you believe it yourself. So I think investors have been my biggest personal development piece, but also they tied me so closely to the vision. And I feel like when you have a really large vision and you start learning what investors can do, that sometimes we actually chain ourselves to them because we know the vision wouldn't be carried through if we didn't chain ourselves and bound ourselves to people that you don't want to disappoint. And so I think it's the constant resetting, even if it's 2 a.m. and you don't want to disappoint them. And you're like, oh my God, that one email that person sent, it's just like grinding in my brain and making me feel terrible. It's like, those are the lessons you need though to carry out a vision of that size. So it's like thanking them for these moments of massive growth. And trust me, it doesn't sound very thankful in the moment, but on the other side, like there's a couple people that I really learned from who really challenged me. And I'm so grateful for them because it transformed me into someone who's able to handle a lot more and understand how to really step into their emotions as well and get a much better perspective. So it's been really, really the most powerful journey, and I'm super grateful.
I love this. Okay, so a lot of what I hear is Glossy. I hear so much about Squeeze, but so much what I hear and what I feel distinctly is like your personal brands, even if they're not as outward facing or if they are, but it's like it's so led through that. And so we talk about love brands, and we talked about how to like distill them and synthesize them for maybe like a smaller business, solopreneur. But I want to go back because before we started pressing record, Brit said that, how did we initially meet? So hold on. So Brit comes into my house, I'm getting changed. I walk out and I said, it's so nice to meet you. And then she says, actually, we might have met, or I think we met before. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so awkward. How do I not know this?
Yes.
And okay, let's go back. How did our paths first meet?
So I have been following you forever and ever and ever.
This is crazy.
I know. I literally...
She did not even tell me this.
I know, the world is so small and so cool. I actually screenshotted our calendar invite and I sent it to one of my best friends, Callie, who has been also a fan of you forever and ever. And she was a bridesmaid in my wedding, which we'll circle back to in a minute. And she was like, oh my gosh, she was like totally freaking out. So we were huge fans of your photography way back in the day. And I had reached out to you. My husband and I got married at the Montage, and I had reached out to you to shoot our wedding. It was like timing or whatever didn't end up working, or you already had it. So whatever it was, it didn't end up working out. But yeah, I was like, we had talked about 12 years ago at this point. Isn't that crazy?
It's so crazy. I'm so happy, but if we go back, because everything's business, like I'm just happy to be around people who will always talk about business. Like my husband has to stop me sometimes, and he's like, I don't want to talk about business, like cut it back. But here, I want to make your we're wedding. The same. We say that all the time.
I
know. That's why I'm like, I'm with my people. Like, it's like we're weird together. So I want to go back to that because there's a through line of a love brand. And so when we go back, I want to know, not because I want to like go back and relive my heydays of high school. What was it? Like what happens? Like you're in the process, because I want to distill like the through line of building brands and what you've done so well through marketing. And sometimes it's hard for me to see what I was doing back then from a consumer, but I want somebody who's in that moment right now to be able to synthesize what it means to build a love brand in a small way.
Well, for you in particular, I mean, I'll turn this back a little bit on you. I think, and I was thinking this morning as I was driving over, I think what you have been able to do is actually a perfect testament to a love brand. And it is also a perfect testament to what you were just saying about the person behind the brand, because what you were able to do through photography, a decade plus ago, is bring to life an emotion and a feeling. And you also, as an outsider looking in, felt so connected to you. Whether it was you were looking at whatever it is you shot, it's like you knew that it was a Jasmine Star piece because of just the way that you brought things to life. And it was so unique and so creative and so insightful and kind of soulful, everything that you did, which is why I really wanted it. I was like so bummed. But I think what you've been able to do, even in transitioning your own career, is a perfect example of that too. Like, you have created an experience, a connection, you've stayed innovative, you have adjusted as times. Like, seriously, go back to this, what I said, experience, innovation. Yeah. And you have a big vision too, right? In terms of connecting. So I actually think that you're such a good example of that transition piece that I feel more and more women should give themselves permission for if they're looking for an additional challenge. Is like, you are still who you were back then. Like, your through line, the foundation, you have just grown and continued to push yourself, and you brought so many people with you. So I actually think you are the perfect example of a love brand, and you've done a really good job of staying true to who you are, which is really what people need to feel that they trust someone and or a brand. So in any case, I think you actually already know you have all the secrets.
I'm sure there's a listener right now be like, Jasmine just wanted a compliment. No, it's not. I had a very hard time. I did a very hard time hearing about myself in third person, right? Of course. But I think it's very helpful. And this is what I'll say. I've always maintained, before people even knew about the brand, is you have a good brand when people are saying things that you work so hard to cultivate.
Yes.
So when somebody says, I felt you, or it was thoughtful, or it was creative, and like all of that was wildly strategic.
Yeah.
And the fact that many people just felt it meant that was a strength of mine, even though I didn't know it was a strength of mine. So I want to go back and tell people a brand is truly priceless and costs very little. And so it's like, there I was building a love brand that I didn't know I was doing at the time. And I was doing only what cost me nothing.
Yeah.
Right? Because I didn't have anything when I started.
Right.
So I want to make sure that we're connecting the dots. Everything from selling Hot Wheels to hot air to sitting in hot RVs, creating podcasts during a pandemic, and then just being two hot women. But I mean, I shouldn't say that thing. I just said the feminist movement back 50 years by saying that. No, but I just want to say how you guys both brought the heat. I can't stop with it. I'm on a roll. Just somebody stop me.
Keep it going.
No, I want to say thank you, Brittany. I got serious, Brittany. I got serious.
Yes, Brittany, thank you.
I got serious. Brit, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And tell your friend who's on that calendar invite, I said hi.
Oh my gosh, I will.
No, she will listen to this.
To your wedding.
She's so excited.
She's going to watch.
Thank you for being here. So for people who want to see when Squeeze is going to be in their neck of the woods, and for people who want to connect with you personally, just to root you on and watch the journey and watch you become that next level unicorn as an exit. Let's go. Where do they go? Where do we go?
SqueezeMassage.com has all the information on locations. Also, if you're interested in franchising, I'm such a believer in just women being able to own their own business, create a health and wellness experience in your community. SqueezeMassage.com/franchising has all those details. Follow us at Squeeze on Instagram. We post about every opening, all the fun things going on. And then I'm at Brit Driscoll on Instagram, BritDrisc.
Beautiful. And when you open Squeeze in Orange County.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I don't know. I'm not even. So
I'll be there once a week with Jasmine.
Yes. And as a clarification, I don't identify as being an influencer. I identify as being an entrepreneur with influence. And so I immediately want to go and I'm like, well, I want to support. So I don't want to go as an influencer. I want to go in as an entrepreneur with influence and let's just hype this place up.
I love that.
I am so excited. I can't wait to book online. I can't wait to see all the cute stuff in the mirror. Yes. I want to have a mint. I already know my playlist. My aromatherapy preference is a little sandalwood, sometimes lavender, depending on the mood I'm in.
We have you covered.
Am I just a massage diva? Somebody needs to stop me. Say a prayer for me.
I'm so excited for you.
Yes. I am literally your ICP.
That's right.
I am it. I'll do the Yelp review, the whole nine. Brit, thank you.
Thank you.
1,000 times over. Thank you, Lori. Thank you for making this beautiful, amazing introduction and full circle moment.
Thank you both.
For those of you who are listening to the Jasmine Star Show and watching, thank you so, so much. It's because of your support that we get to continue to do this. Like always, we don't run ads. This is a labor of love. But the way that you reciprocate is by leaving a review and or tagging Brit on Instagram. Let us know where you're watching from. Like always, it is an honor. It is a pleasure. Many blessings. Thank you for listening and watching to the Jasmine Star Show.